Okay, so today
we're going back.
We're going back.
We're going to talk about breastfeeding.
We are.
It is that thing. I mean, it's been in the press because last week was breastfeeding week. So it's brought back all the breastfeeding chat, and there's always going to be.
And it's taken us
breastfeeding chat.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be controversial because you've got the pro breastfeeders, you've got the
straight to bottle
feeders, you've got the as long as they're fed, it's finers.
You've got, yeah, so many different levels, and this is not a contentious video before anyone starts to panic. We're not about to start saying
we're not one side or the other.
You should be doing that. We both did manage to breastfeed, but you particularly had some really rocky times. I got away with it pretty lightly, I have to say. But had we struggled, and had there been major mastitis or dry milk, you know, hardly any milk.
Had all of it.
Yeah,
had all of it.
We probably would have, you know, there's a good possibility that we would have gone to bottle too. You know, we just want to make that clear. But what's now the conversation is that they're going to start, well, they want to start teaching about breastfeeding in school. What do we think about that? Because again,
and the important bit being from age 11.
Okay.
So when basically age 11 is the age when they start to talk about sex, they start to talk about what's private, they start to talk about contraceptive, smoking drugs, all those things. 11 is the age where they start to tell you about stuff.
Yeah.
Not like history and geography. They start to tell you about stuff.
And they, you know, I remember being that age and looking things up in the dictionary because that's all we could do because we didn't have the internet. Did you really just do that? But my point being is that you're starting to look up the rude words. Somebody's older brother or sister's told them about like a really bad word and worse. And then we knew that the sex video was coming at school. Not an actual like sex video, but like the sex education video. And there's the tittering around the class going, we get to see that. Oh my God.
It's all coming out today. How did you find, did your parents tell you about sex and babies?
My mum says that she told us on a bike ride. She took us on a, you know, the round Bushy Park.
Sounds wrong today.
Bushy Park.
Oh, let's call this video Spot the Innuendo.
Oh God, it's innuendo bingo.
It is.
Oh God.
So anyway, your mum
she took us on a bike ride.
But you can't remember it.
I don't remember it, but apparently by the end of it, I just went,
do you think she gave you a fluffy version?
What's that? Why is that rude?
Fluffy. I don't know.
What, like, oh God, no. So now I'm thinking about porn and fluffers, and no, this is all going very wrong.
Really, this isn't what we were supposed to be talking about. Breastfeeding week.
By the end of it, apparently I turned around and said, it was like I hadn't been listening, and just went, oh, can Francesca come round for tea today? And my mum just went, ugh.
Katie does that when I speak most of the time. I can talk about something really important.
Who said
She'll
that?
ask me if I want a cup of tea.
I love that you're saying that I do that. That is so you. You're not even listening.
Oh, you should hear our voice messages.
Oh, you wait.
Katie didn't even say, I think you carried on talking then, you got cut off.
Yeah. But
I'll go for an hour.
Okay, back to our very important discussion and debate. I do very much remember the video at school, and that was in the junior school, so we were young, you know, we were at the end of the junior school, so I don't know what year that is now.
I'm the opposite of you, because I don't remember learning about it at school, but I can really remember going on holiday with my mum and dad, and my mum said, right, I got to talk to you every night this week. You're going to come in my room. We're going to go through the body book. It was the Usborne body book.
Oh, good old Usborne.
And I've now bought the same book for the boys because that's the only way that I know to tell my kids about sex and the body.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, I'll buy the same book that I know. I can remember the pages.
Was it like a mummy and daddy have a special cuddle and there's like, it's always a bearded man?
No, it wasn't
a bearded man?
No.
No? They always do beardy. Yeah.
And you've ended up with one. I had, the Usborne book goes through all these like things like, how do you do a poo? Here's the digestive system. And then on the next page it's like, how do you do a wee?
I thought, is this still in the same sex book?
And then, well no, it's not a sex book, it's called the body book.
Okay, fine.
So it goes through all these bodily functions.
Right.
And then
they slip it in there.
Obviously you just turn the page and the next page is about how babies are born, and so you're finding out about sex, but it's just the same as the next page, which is just about doing a poo.
And now suddenly there's a baby.
And that's fine, you know all about it. But I can remember talking to my mum about it, and I can remember it being very factual, and this is how it happens. And it was very brilliant because she was really open and honest with me. We talked about what's private. We talked about what's okay and what's not okay. We talked about breastfeeding because she had breastfed all three of us.
I think I was because she had breasts.
Because she had breasts. She has got breasts. And yeah, and it was a great way to find out from my mum. And actually, then when all the gossipy stuff went on at school, I wasn't trying to work out what was fact and what was tittle-tattle. And actually, tattle. And yeah, actually that was a good way to find out. I am all for parents discussing it with their kids. I have discussed it with my kids. We talk about it in a very... I try not to make a big thing of it. I try not to start laughing about it because obviously it's not very funny. But yeah, breastfeeding. If I had a daughter,
do you not think it's a good idea for it to be taught in schools?
I do. I must admit, when I first read it, I thought 11. And then I thought, actually, that is Rocco's age. And yes, he is about the right age where he needs to know from me about sex. And yes, he does need to be educated about sex. And because they're starting to show an interest.
Remember when we had loads of friends around here and one of them was breast pumping in the kitchen, and Rocco came in and was like, because it was going wah, wah. And you know, you had to explain it to him.
I did, matter of fact, just to explain to you.
This is what's happening.
It was Corinne, actually, one of the other Channel Mum bloggers, and I just said Corinne is taking milk out of her baby because she's not with her baby today, and so that she can feed it from a bottle later. And it was fine because it was very I explained it as you would explain. I'm pouring you a glass of milk. Here it is.
But I know and that's a great way to do it. But I know that there's been a lot of reading through the comments on a lot of these press stories about kids being taught in school about it. Loads of people saying, I'll choose what I teach my kids, it's up to me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that is a valid opinion.
But I think the guy who has written the paper originally has talked about removing the stigma from breastfeeding, and especially breastfeeding in public. And there's so much chat about whether breastfeeding's okay in public. Is it disgusting? Is it okay till age 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? It's something that people really, really get angry about on one side or the other. And actually there's quite a bit of nervousness around breastfeeding and what's okay and what's not okay. And the big thing that I felt about breastfeeding was I was not ready for it to be difficult. So I thought that breastfeeding was the natural thing to do. And natural is a word that makes you think it's easy. And it was not easy. So it was easy for a day, and because I thought I was doing it fine, I really, really messed up. And actually, had I been educated before I started breastfeeding on how to get it right, I might not have ended up with skin literally hanging off the end of my nipples and bleeding into the mouth of my baby whilst breastfeeding. I was in agony, and it was only through sheer determination to breastfeed. And I had such easy outs as well. I had so many people around me saying, breastfeeding shouldn't be like this. You can just bottle feed and it's absolutely fine. I was determined to breastfeed, not because I think bottle feeding is wrong, before I get any comments on that. I was determined that I wanted to breastfeed my kids.
That was your choice,
not because I thought it was wrong to do anything else. And I pushed myself through a serious amount of pain to get through it. But maybe had I had the education before I had my baby, I could have changed that.
But
so
the argument being,
I am pro teaching. Teaching.
But does it need to be done at 11 though? Because you'd have possibly maybe forgotten by then. But you and I had
our babies later on in life, and there's a lot of people who
are in their 20s.
It sounds awful to say, but 11's not that far off. You're going
I think 11 might be one of the youngest ages to have had a baby. There's been an 11-year-old recorded having a baby in the UK.
As soon as you start your periods, you can't get pregnant.
And it all goes down to, it all comes down to education, in my opinion. Everything comes back to education. It's your influences around you, what you learned at school. And it's not about being taught at school that breast is best. It's about knowing that these are functional. They are there to nourish a baby. Yes, they're also quite fun in a sexual way. So what? Come on, we can be adults about this. Boobies, they can be fun in a sexual way. It's fine, we can say that. And this is why I think that teaching it at 11, I can see you giggling at me out of the corner of my eye. I'm not even gonna look at you. God, this is why boobs need to be talked about, because people think they're funny.
I can't talk about sex with Katie.
I don't want to think about my friends having sex.
No, I don't want to.
But yes, it's, you know, this is the thing. Stop it. Right. Okay. I feel like there's a little puppy looking at me. You know, this is the thing. If the whole kind of sex thing is just dealt with at that early age, and it's like, yes, you can give them a honk, all of that, whatever. This is what boobs, you know, kids, they see boobs and they see all the you know, whole sex thing. I can't make my point clear.
I'm so sorry.
So yeah, if they get to realise that they are also functional, then that's, you know, that's something that they get educated with at an early age. You know, I've heard, and this has always upset me, I've heard women say that they're not going to breastfeed their babies because they're for their husband. I mean,
have you?
Yeah.
Who said
their husband and their partners and people like, you know.
But and that's somebody who hasn't had a baby, because I think when you have a baby, your body feels different. It's my body feels so different. That's when it became not for my husband.
You know, and I just think, and I get that. I get, you know, yes, it's you know, maybe sex is such a big part of that person's life, and okay, fine, again, each to their own. But where has that come from? That boobs are purely there for sex? They're not, you know, the first time I really understood that boobs were like a thing, do you know what I mean? I don't just mean on women, that they were like a thing for people to look at, was my good old Uncle Jack had a vegetable shop down in Ramsgate. Love Ramsgate.
Where are we going now?
He had the sun calendar on the wall in the vegetable shop, you know, and it was just there. And this was kind of amongst the vegetables, amongst the melons. No, it was up at the back where, you know, behind the till type thing. And you think that was kind of what it was like when we grew up. It was all, it was...
Was I in it?
I hope not, because I was about 6 or 7.
Oh,
and it does have a past history. You never got the boobs right out there, did you? We should say. So you do. Everyone has a past history. Yours just happens to be a sexy one.
Nothing to do with breastfeeding.
No, but you know, this is the thing. It's a whole feminist standpoint as well. You know, and yes, I am a strong feminist, not because I have daughters, just because that's just something that I believe in. And I don't think women should be objectified the way they are. I appreciate that women and men can be put up as, you know, pin-ups and all that kind of stuff. But growing up, it was very much women were put up and naked in a vegetable shop, and men weren't. And it should be a case of, oh, by the way, those boobs also can feed your babies.
I had a fireman's calendar.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you have the guy? Who was the guy with the tyres?
Yeah.
Do you remember the tyre picture?
That.
No, I know, but again, he didn't have his willy out. His torso is not the same as a woman having her boobs out.
No, but now we're talking about like, where's the line with porn and page 3 and stuff like that, which is a different thing, and probably not something that I need to get onto the conversation on, because I'd say that's where we have quite a difference of opinion. But I think on breastfeeding we're pretty similar. It's okay to breastfeed in public.
Yeah.
You are breastfeeding your child, and I know that we both feel that it doesn't actually have to be the whole breasticle out.
That's just us. I did cover up, you covered up.
And that's not saying it's wrong, but it is saying that there are some people that would feel uncomfortable with that.
And I am respectful of those people.
There are men and women that won't have seen a baby breastfeed, and they might feel uncomfortable if you're doing it.
Or maybe they haven't seen a boob for a while.
And I am someone that doesn't actually, I don't like making other people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you know, you were saying that actually the breastfeeding rate in the UK is extremely low.
It's one of the lowest in Europe, and this is why they're talking about educating.
It's some of that because we are British, and we're all a little bit like, don't talk about boobs and bottoms and foo-foos and willies, and you know, we're British.
Unless it's in like a real whack whack oops kind of Benny Hill kind of way, and then it's all okay for the Brits to do that.
Is it because of that? But actually, coming back to our subject that was brought up over Breastfeeding Week, let's remove the stigma. It is okay to breastfeed in public. You know, think about the other people around you though and how they might feel. You don't have to expose yourself.
But you certainly don't need to be hiding in a toilet.
But by educating our children, and if you've got daughters, by explaining to them actually breastfeeding isn't easy. I really
that should be part of the education as well.
For me, that would have changed everything. That would have changed my breastfeeding experience. If I'd got the right cream, because there was only one cream that worked for me. And I really believe that I messed up trying other creams that weren't as effective. The Lancino pure lanolin cream, there wasn't anything else that protected my nipples as much as that one did. And I really struggled to breastfeed. I had to push myself through a serious pain barrier to make it happen. And there were nights when I was crying in pain. And I did it, and actually I have to say I'm so pleased I did, because I got to such a beautiful place with breastfeeding that like it was incredible, and I ended up loving it, and I'm so pleased that I did get through that. But the second time and the third time I had a baby, I was so ready for the pain and I was prepared for it, and I used the right cream, and it made such an incredible difference. And by then I'd been to every breastfeeding class there was, and I knew how to get a baby to latch on in the right position. And maybe if I had been armed with all of that information and help before I started breastfeeding, maybe I wouldn't have had to bleed into my baby's mouth with my skin hanging out.
And I think, you know, that message is, you know, all of, I mean, crikey, we don't need to talk about bleeding nipples to 11-year-olds. However, later on, as biology progresses in school, then maybe it can be something that's it's more in depth later on. But I don't see that there's a problem with introducing it to kids, because there's also going to be kids whose mums are breastfeeding anyway, and they know all about it. They've seen their mum do it, and there might be kids that have seen another friend's mum do it, and they're going, what the heck is that all about? You know, they should know that it's okay to do either, but this is also a bodily function. If they're learning about sex education, they need to know about the consequences of sex, which is babies, and therefore potentially breastfeeding. Sorry, I went a little bit. But that's what I think. I don't see what the problem is about. You know, I spoke on Talk Radio the other day about it, and it was interesting to hear the radio presenters saying how, well, you know, surely this is the time of sexual awakening for boys. You know, one, why is it always about the boys anyway? And two, exactly, that's the perfect time for them to realise that it's not just, they're not just there for your titillation.
Is that word again?
Tits. Titillation.
But, yeah, I mean, it did make me gasp when I first read it. And then when I thought about Rocco's age, and I thought, yes, they're talking about stuff in the playground. Yeah. And yes, he will question, oh, what's the baby doing under that muslin? But actually, let's talk to our kids, because that does remove the
stigma. Just take away that.
It makes it okay.
Yeah,
and that's what we need to do.
I think that's all that needs. That's all anyone, you know, the politicians are talking about, is that it's just going to help remove the stigma. The other big thing, of course, is that many people do believe that breastfeeding means that there is a potential to reduce certain illnesses in your future, which means less of a strain on the NHS, which means, you know, financial
for
the government.
Health benefits for you, health benefits for the baby.
So that's going to be part of the reason why they do want to encourage people to breastfeed, is because and to educate kids younger. It's not about saying that it's the only way and that is the best way, but
and that, I mean, we don't need to go into that because we're not medical professionals. We've both got our own.
You sure?
We've both got our own opinions on breastfeeding, and like I said, we both chose to breastfeed, and you know, I was so determined to breastfeed, I pushed myself to do it.
Yeah, I didn't make it past a year though, which is what, you know, they are suggesting that, you know, people should be breastfeeding for a year, and amazing if you do.
But let's not feel bad about what goals we don't reach, but let's support each other to reach the goals that we can reach, and actually, you know, brilliant. Let's arm our kids. If I had daughters, I would definitely be discussing with them my breastfeeding story, sharing it with them, and encouraging them to breastfeed. And I'd do it with, you know, I've helped so many friends try to breastfeed if they've wanted to. I'd never ever encourage somebody to breastfeed who didn't want to. But yes, I'll support anybody through breastfeeding, and I'll do that by saying this is not an easy thing to do, and here are the tools that I can arm you with to help you do it. And let's do that. Let's, you know,
because you do get sent out of hospital
to succeed.
Yeah, you get sent out of hospital with a baby, and it's like, see ya. It's like, hang on a second. You've got to have a license for every other blooming animal you have in your house, and, you know, learn how to do this, that, and the other. And you just get sent home with a baby.
And I do think it's also very easy these days to be given a reason to stop breastfeeding as well. And I know I'm on dodgy ground here.
Oh, careful, careful.
I am, but, you know, as soon as it does become painful, or as soon as, you know, there's times when the baby becomes more hungry and they're having a growth squirt, a growth spurt, and that could be the point when you feel like you haven't got enough milk. And I've heard it time and time again where women are told you're not really producing enough milk, so you want to go onto the bottle, or maybe you should supplement your breast milk. I've heard it so many times from women that say I'm not producing enough milk. Well, are you? You know,
yeah, you are.
I know that's dodgy ground, but actually, this is all about supporting breastfeeding from a young age. So
but
people
equally,
are
some
ready
people do end up
to,
having the milk there.
It's not easy.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. It's not easy. I wasn't ready for it not to be easy, and I could so easily have given up and not experienced how wonderful it was to breastfeed. And yes, it might have helped me had more education about it. It's as simple as that. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, we really want to know your opinion. Let us know. Are you anti it? Are you for it? But tell us why, because we really want to know the valid arguments.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Do it.
Like our videos. Follow us on Facebook. Anything else? Twitter, Instagram.